It's time for the end of September farm tour, and I'm doing this in the morning instead of the evening, which is different for me, but we've been super busy. I was going to do it last night, and we ended up having an unexpected freeze the night before that got a lot of my plants, and so we had to do some harvesting yesterday that we weren't expecting to do. I just got nuzzled by Gunner. We were out feeding the pigs, and they like to come over because sometimes if we have tortillas, we give them bites. But so I fed the piggies, and now we're gonna walk around and take a look at everything. It's morning, so the roosters are gonna be crowing. Our ladder is out here because we pulled out our fall decor the other day, and the kiddos forgot to put the ladder away. But our tours are always the good, bad, and the ugly, right? So let's get us out of the sun, and we'll start over here. This is the pineapple sage, and I absolutely love this plant. It's one of my favorites. It smells so good, and it's just gorgeous. It's so pretty. In the fall, it sends up these penstemon-like flowers, and the hummingbirds absolutely love them, which this year it started blooming a little later, and the hummingbirds have already done most of their migration. So there's a couple stragglers that are coming through that are enjoying this, but mostly it's just for us to look at. I'll try to throw up a picture from the beginning so you guys can see how tiny it was when we started. And then we'll come up to the porch here where I have, you guys are gonna see a ton of shadows today. Some of our fall decor out already here, and I just have some pots with some really cute pumpkins in them and pansies, and kind of each pot has its own flowers for color. So that's some purples and greens in here, and I really like the Dusty Miller with that pumpkin shade. And then down here we actually grew these pumpkins here, or this is a pumpkin and a bottleneck squash, and I just think it looks really pretty with these pansies, which are maroon and yellow. And there's some grasses in there, some more Dusty Miller. And I think this is, I'm not sure if I'm going to say this pumpkin name right, but Mas de Provence. And I really like it. We have some dahlias right here, which I'm just figuring out that these dahlias don't have as good a vase life as others. So I'm going to do some experimenting with the next couple weeks, pulling some stuff and just writing down how long the vase life is for them. We still have some fall planting that needs to be done. So we are doing a fall work day here on Friday just to get these last minute perennials in the ground, some beets and kale and stuff that I will cover so that we can eat it over the last of the fall. Our hanging baskets are definitely looking the worst for the wear. I think I mentioned in the last video that we just had some issues with our drip, and they just haven't been able to recover. I've been doing a lot of hand watering with them as well. And I did have our corn stalks up, and they are over here because the last couple days it has been super windy, and I just was not finding a way to keep them up. So I think whenever hubby gets some free time, we're gonna go ahead and just put some extra nails in the wall and then use some wire to hold them up against the planters. But you can see here, this is probably gonna be my favorite area for fall. And I did pick this pumpkin up at a local nursery. And then you can see the ornamental kale, which is here, a red one, some Dusty Miller, our Creeping Jenny, which is left in here from the previous one, and the summer one that was in here. And this is a purple salvia that's absolutely gorgeous. It's pretty much spent. It's not going to be growing anymore for the season. And I tacked it up against the house so that hopefully, and it did make it through one freeze already, like I mentioned, it'll last a little bit longer for the color. And then just have some maroon pansies thrown in here to kind of stay in this gorgeous color theme. And that nursery also had some red millet. So I'm gonna hopefully seed save these because I think they're just absolutely stunning. So, so pretty. We grow millet from the bird seed, which actually, since the bird feeder is right here, I'm gonna show you guys what millet is. Millet is this tiny little grain here. You can see I was out picking tomatoes and my hands are still green and cracked because I refuse to wear gloves. But this is what millet looks like. And the birds will push it down and it'll grow by itself. Our fountain grass over here kind of is a little sad looking. It didn't get very big this year at all, and it only has like 5 or 6 little grass seed heads on it, which is kind of sad. But I do have a bunch of plants right here. I'm going to my favorite boutique tomorrow to do some planters up for them with more pumpkins and kale and pansies, and we have some Russian kale. I have some herbs that I'm doing for them because I want them to have stuff that carries over into the spring that we can use. And most everything that is going in their pots will also make it through freezes so that we can leave it there until we redo them for Christmas. And let's take a look at our market rows, and we'll come around to the backside again and take a look. So our hollyhocks are just gorgeous. They're so pretty. A lot of the seed heads are forming so I can save seed for next year. This right here is a tiny little pile of the frozen tomato leaves that I had to pull up yesterday from our tomato row here. And the next row over is peppers, which you can't see from here. I actually see a pepper that we forgot. I kind of took out most of those peppers as well. We made a bunch of salsa and roasted peppers last night with what we harvested. And then the back rows are pretty much just gone and empty. So we're going to put those to bed on Friday. Make sure all the weeds are gone, throw down some more straw, wet it so that we can, and put some more of the rabbit manure on it as well so that we can keep creating soil over the winter time. So we'll come periodically and make sure that that's moist because I think the soil depth there was only 4 inches. So I'm actually pretty impressed that the sunflowers did as well as they did there, and the sunflowers will also help break up compaction. So happy about that. Our arbor looks so pretty. We're gonna go do a close-up in a minute, and then you can see the cosmos, which just looks so pretty. So I think both of those beds next year will be in flowers on either side of the arbor so that it looks more balanced and pretty this time of year. All right, let's move along. All right, so I'm gonna do a huge no-no and I'm gonna walk underneath the ladder, but I wanna show you guys what's going on here. Our dahlias are doing okay. There's a couple of them that look worse for the wear on the other side. I will show you because they have, oh, this one looks really pretty. I have a whole bunch of them in the house. On the other side, you can see some more, but the problem that I'm having is that I have powdery mildew, and it has really doing a number on my plants. I got some of the organic copper sulfate, I think, to do a treatment on them. But at this point, it's so late in the season, I'm not sure I'm going to do a treatment. I think I might just kind of let these peter out and then make sure that because you can see now it's on my zinnias, that everything is going to make it into the trash so that we don't carry over the spores for powdery mildew into our compost and then affect our plants next year. But you can see we have some gorgeous flowers, and I can't remember what the variety of these are. If I figure it out, I'll try to put it on the screen below. These are our queen lime zinnias here. And you can see that most of the leaves that had the powdery mildew are just even dead at the bottom of these. I'm gonna try not to touch them because I don't want to take the disease to other plants around the yard. But this zinnia head this dahlia head is probably 4 or 5 inches. I planted smaller ones because I like to use them in cut flowers. I don't want to use the dinner plates. So let's go take a look at what's in the greenhouse next. There's not much, finally, which is good. I have some plants that need to go to the compost. I have some echinacea down here that I pulled out of my summer planters that are just kind of hanging out right here for a couple days until I can get them into the ground. Some more creeping Jenny, same thing. I just yanked them out of the ground, shoved them in 4-inch pots, and just kind of keeping them moist till I can get them in the ground. And then also one of my pots had some daffodil bulbs at the bottom, so I brought those in so that I can make sure that they get put in the ground where I want them to come up next year. Here they're staring at some cosmos right here. We have some lamb's ear, and I'm really, really, really happy with these mums that came back from last year. I just think they're so pretty. I really like this purple. And these beds are all supposed to be pastel colors. So purples, blues, really light yellows, pinks, and whites. And I like the way they look, but I might add in another color to have some depth and dimension, because especially this bed, as you can tell right now, it just looks a little flat. This bed here has just struggled all year. It's under a juniper, so I know that I'm gonna have battles with it. Probably gonna have to put more natives in here and see how they do. Some of these came up from last year, which is really good. Like the geranium that's right there, that hardy geranium. You can see the mums coming up, which is good because the geese did take those all the way down to the ground and they still came back up. I didn't know that geese would like mums so much. I still have our 4th of July American flag up. I haven't changed it. I'm gonna change it for fall because we're gonna do a little farm tour open house thing for a couple families here in about 2 weeks. Hopefully we don't get another freeze and there's nothing to see. So the fall decorations are out. They're in the house. I just have to get them up and just haven't had time to do that. I'm gonna step over this here. That's our conduit line that's in there to run electricity back there. And so, as you can tell, we're definitely still under construction, but oh my goodness, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, which is absolutely fabulous. So here are the hollyhocks. They just look amazing. I'm so happy with them. It is so nice to have color for such a long season, a long portion of the season, and to have something that is water-wise and can just have all different kinds of color. Probably my favorite are these pink with the maroon deep throats on them, and there was a fluffy white one, which I don't see any flowers open, so I can't show you. That was my second favorite. The Mother's Day garden, if I can get away from the sun so that I can show you what it looks like. It's a little bit hard to see this bed here, but it's just doing so well. You can't even see the rocks anymore. They've been covered by the plants, which I just didn't think was going to happen the first year in a perennial bed. We do have some annuals, like I've told you guys in the past, that are covering some holes with some salvia. There's big white salvia here, which is actually as tall as the Russian sage that I planted. There are snapdragons, rocket snapdragons right here, which are about 2.5 feet tall, that are gorgeous. They're coming back for their probably last hurrah for the end of the season, and it just looks so pretty. The purple salvia over here, the perennial, has just been blooming its head off for like the last month and a half. It looks so good. And then we have some plants that just don't bloom their first season, which is the Sweet William right here, but it's growing big. It's really enjoying this fall cool weather and putting on a lot of greens. We have Gara right here, which is that hot pink flower that looks gorgeous. And the lamb's ear is just taken over, so I'll probably have to cut that back. The feather grass that's in here is just so pretty, and you can see it gently kind of going in the breeze. And in person, guys, it just looks really pretty. Our grass is doing phenomenal. I'm really happy with how thick it is. You can't see any of the lines. To me, it doesn't look like new grass at all. We were supposed to get it mowed yesterday, but again, because we were busy harvesting vegetables, it didn't happen. So we'll probably do that this morning. I was supposed to have a Bible study this morning, but my gals couldn't make it, so I think it'll be a perfect opportunity to kind of get some last minute stuff in that I wasn't able to take care of yesterday. So guys, look at this yarrow. I planted this yarrow by seed last year, and it is just huge. There's an ice plant, which will is not perennial, so it'll kick the bucket. Actually, it's hearts and flowers, not an ice plant. Some Gara, which actually I don't think it's liking it here at all. I'm not going to touch it, but I think it has powdery mildew, and it's not liking that it's getting hit with the sprinkler. So I'm probably going to have to move that. And our daisy just got done, Shasta daisy blooming again. We have some nasturtium in here, some more zinnias, which these just had the tiniest little flowers on them. They were cute to add as fillers in the cut flower arrangements, but I definitely expected them to be 2 or 3 times the size. I know my mom is struggling as well with that. So here's some frost damage, I think, along with some powdery mildew on these zinnias. I don't see any other frost damage over here, but I also can see that I'm probably gonna have to trim up this lilac to look more like a tree because it is also struggling from powdery mildew. And if I can keep those bottom leaves from getting wet, that should solve the problem. I had cucumbers over here. They were just too shaded. Like, they're getting sun right now, but in about an hour and a half, that's it for the day. And that just changed because our trees got bigger, because they are getting watered. You know, as we've mentioned before, the house was abandoned, and so stuff wasn't taken care of. And now as we add water back to perennials, they're kind of fluffing out. So we'll see where we actually need to plant shade plants, which this is definitely one of them. The bottleneck squash that I had growing here did pretty well. And because it was underneath the overhang, you can see that it didn't suffer so much from the frost, where all the other ones just kicked the bucket. Oh, that's so weird. Look, so I have pumpkin here. I didn't even notice that this actually made it through, because everything I'm going to show you on the front side just didn't make it at all. It's a little bit thicker here, and I think, you know, plants protect each other, and there's a bunch of sumac growing in here, so they probably helped each other trap the heat to being taken by the frost. I do have a bunch of sunflowers that are trying to block the sun there, that are growing up in these market rows for an event, and they look absolutely fabulous. So hopefully they bloom right on time. We're just crossing our fingers, gonna see what happens. And then our beans, taking that second frost yesterday, I think they're just done. So we're gonna go ahead and take those out on Friday as well. And I'm gonna swing around to the other side and show you guys the rest of the pumpkin plants and carrots and stuff that we still have. All right, I didn't want to put you in the sun as I was flipping the camera around here, so. All right, we still have the bunnies in the pergola. They're supposed to be out in the chicken coops, but we just haven't covered it yet. And that's gonna take some work, and we didn't wanna be taking bunny hutches in and out, so they're hanging out here. Our guineas are here. They're ready to go out as well, but the turkeys are in there. It's like this domino effect, right? We need, some of the babies are playing. We need to do this in order to do that, so we're still a little bit behind. But here are the squash plants, pumpkin plants that I was telling you about that didn't make it through the frost. So I guess these weren't as thick, or maybe they were colder. I'm not sure why, because this is west facing, so they should have been warmth and had a little bit of ambient heat coming off of here. But they did not make it. So these are our remaining pumpkins that are on the vine here. So we have this little guy here. I don't even know what variety that is. We have some white pumpkins, which I'm noticing in the stores too. I don't like the shape that they are. They aren't very pretty. They're not uniform. I mean, that one looks like the shape of a pumpkin, right? But I mean, this guy here, just, you know, not very pretty shape. This one for sure looks like a pear and not a pumpkin. So, I mean, this can kind of be fun to decorate with, but I prefer to have a little bit more of a pumpkin shape in some of my plants. It's good to grow stuff so that you can see what you like and don't like. I'm going to show you the bunnies. They haven't had breakfast yet, so they're going to be zooming around looking at me like, hey lady, I think you forgot about me. But we have a bunch of stuff drying. Like right there is a bunch of spaghetti squash, and there's some bottleneck squash, there's some little pumpkins, and then if you look over here, so it goes all the way around the ledge of the bed there. These are acorn squash, and some other winter squashes there that are curing for the rest of the season. So here's the other side of the perennial beds and our, what we call our OG raised beds. I pulled out a bunch, you can see here, of tomatoes from here and took a whole bunch of green tomatoes in. Some of them will ripen, and then I think the rest of them we're going to use for mincemeat, which I love to make mincemeat using green tomatoes. We also ate a lot of our Brussels sprouts the other night. We had some family over for dinner and made those. Again, this is where the arbor is. You can see the cosmos. We have a bunch more tomatoes here, which they did well. Again, I think because they're compacted together and they were able to hold the heat. And I need to come through and harvest these. You can see they have some late season, some blight on there. And again, I'm not going to mess with them. I'll just take them at the end of the season, put them in the trash and not add them to the compost. But I did want to show you guys kind of what the view looked like with the mountains behind it. And the mountains kind of disappeared, but the arbor is really pretty. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. See the cosmos here, which are just so pretty. And we're not doing cut flowers this week for either one of any of our customers. So I'm going to take some of them, like I said, inside and just do some testing to see how long the vase life is with stuff. And so if you guys have any products that you use to kind of stabilize your plants, let me know. We go organic as possible here, but if I have, some customers like that, and then some of them are okay if we put some stabilizers in there to prolong the shelf life. But this 4 o'clock here, you can see has some frost damage, but it is just still so pretty. And it grew huge, and it was not even supposed to grow here. But that's what happens sometimes when you let plants that just have a ton of seeds go. So you can tell these are the remnants of our squash plants. We need to come through and pull the rest of these acorn squash out. Looks like there's a couple in here. And these will also not be going into our compost pile, because a couple of them look like they were a little diseased, and I just want to keep our property as disease and pest free as possible and not overwinter stuff in the compost pile. I know it's kind of sad to take these to the trash, but unfortunately that's what happens to protect your garden for years to come. It's important to do that. So there you have it, the backside view of the house, our end of September garden tour. I think next time you see it, I'm betting that everything will be put to bed for the winter season, which I think will be a good video to share as well, to kind of show you what it looks like before we are able to take a rest, the work that has to be done with just making sure that everything's cleaned up, that we can help the soil build over the winter, because we talk about resting and letting things be, but there's always stuff going on at the soil level, and we want to protect that and promote that as much as possible. And you can tell there's a lot of grass and things that are growing in my rows that just need to go so that they're not taking nutrients away from next year's crop. You can tell here's some more grass. We have come through this row, and the crops are all out of it, but the weeds are not, the grasses are not. So we need to come take care of those. We laid some rabbit manure down, so we'll come through, mark the edges of the rows with string, and then put down straw so that next year we're ready to go. So thank you for tuning in. Leave your comments below with any suggestions you might have, or comments, or what you all are experiencing in the last moments of the season. Take care, and we'll see you next time.